Americans, if I put a gun to your head and told you to name 3 Robbie Williams songs on the spot, what are your chances of survival? Next to none, innit? That's because Americans do not care about Robbie Williams. And that's okay. Earlier this year, a film called Better Man was released, and it was a biographical musical drama based on the life and times of Robbie Williams. But there was a catch. There was a catch, and the catch was Williams was portrayed by a CGI chimpanzee. I'm going to say it again. Williams was portrayed by a CGI chimpanzee. If you're chronically online like I am, you would know that this film, Better Man, sparked conversation around Robbie Williams' relevancy in America and why anybody would want to watch a film of a chimpanzee cosplaying as a Brit that most Americans had never even heard of. So on today's episode, we're going to talk about Robbie Williams and why most Americans, if not all Americans, simply couldn't give a heck about him. And we're also going to talk about why some British acts, like your Dua Lipas, like your Harry Styles, like your Ed Sheerans and your Adeles, are able to cross over and have success in the US, and why some, like Oasis and Cheryl Cole, aren't. Hello, my name is Aurelio Koga. I am a presenter, broadcaster, cultural commentator, all-round creative idiot. And welcome back to another episode of Small Talk. This is where I sit in my bed and I dissect and delve into the world of music, sport, entertainment, popular culture, current affairs, and everything in between, but aim to delve a little bit deeper than beneath the surface. Robert Peter Williams. Genuinely, there was a point in the 1990s, other than the Queen, as in Queen Elizabeth, God rest her soul, other than the Queen and maybe David Beckham, you could argue that Robbie Williams was one of the most famous faces in the entire United Kingdom. Like, Brits know this, but for my Americans watching, I don't think you understand just how famous this guy was. This guy was famous. I really want to emphasize, Robbie Williams was famous. Now, I'm not going to give you an extensive backstory into his life, but I'll give you enough information just so that we can coherently piece together this narrative and give you further context into his early life. Robbie comes from humble beginnings. He comes from a place called Stoke-on-Trent, and I'm not going to say anything bad about Stoke-on-Trent because I've been to Stoke-on-Trent, and personally, I found it to be an absolute Born into a working class family, his dad runs a pub and he's just a regular kid that loves performance, loves the arts, and absolutely loves music. Age 16, he auditions for and joins this boy band called Take That. And now that we are here, actually, I've wanted to say this for a very long time. Now that we are here, Take That, that is an awful name for a band. Absolutely awful name for a band. Anyways, the band was super successful. They had multiple #1 singles, multiple #1 albums, sold over 45 million records worldwide, and were just an overwhelming success. But if you watch very closely to their early days, you can tell that Robbie knew that he was a star, and everyone else in the group knew that he was a star as well, much to Gary Barlow's annoyance. He had this cheeky persona, he had the middle parted hair that would fall over your eyebrows that all the white boys had in the 1990s. And he had this raw energy and persona that just made him a teen heartthrob. And there's always one person in every band. Think of every pop band, every boy band, every girl band, and think of that one person that just had it, that star quality that was a little bit different to everyone else. Robbie was that person for Take That. And even though he was that person in the group, you could kind of watch the interviews and tell that he didn't really fit the mold. And he came out in interviews after he left, we're going to get to that, and spoke about how he was underappreciated and he felt undervalued and he felt like he had more to give and his ideas weren't being taken on board because Gary Barlow basically ran the entire operation. Not only that, and I will speak figuratively here, Robbie Williams liked the snow. Robbie Williams liked the snow. You can fill in the blanks. In fact, you know what? I'll paint a picture for you. Have you ever knocked over talcum powder and had to use a vacuum cleaner to pick it up? I haven't personally, never have, never will. But Robbie did on many occasions, time and time and time and time again. In fact, he kept on knocking over talcum powder and hoovering it up with his nose. And I don't even need to say allegedly, because he said this himself. But I'm still going to say allegedly, because I don't want no problems. Don't want no problems. Now that I've got your attention, I would absolutely love for you to subscribe to this YouTube channel. As I said, we talk about music, entertainment, popular culture, a little bit of current affairs and sport. And we have fun while we do it. I can't lie, we have a good time over here. So if you're enjoying the video, give us a like. I say give me a like, drop a comment, subscribe, and help me boost my yappings to other people's YouTube algorithm so I can give out more videos similar to this one. But yeah, thank you for watching, and back to the video. So Robbie leaves the band under a bit of a cloud, and after smoking and drinking literally every single substance under the sun, he re-emerges and kickstarts his solo career. And this is where the story really begins. To put it very simply, Robbie Williams became a cultural juggernaut. He became one of the biggest pop stars of his generation. He sold out stadiums across Europe and Australia, shifted over 75 million records worldwide, won Brit Awards amongst many other things. He went from a pop boy band dropout to a pop solo messiah. And because of this, the British public loved him. Oh, they absolutely adored him. They loved his vulnerability, they loved his arrogance, his self-deprecating humor, and his chaotic sincerity. He wasn't polished, but that kind of was the point. You know, he was flawed, he was funny, but he was fundamentally British. And because of that, that was the very thing that allowed him to succeed in Britain, Europe, and Australia. And it was also the exact same thing that stopped him from being a success in America. So you could call it a somewhat double-edged cultural sword. Despite sharing a language, the UK and the US are culturally worlds apart. And technically speaking, the Americans stole the English language. But the last thing you're going to catch me, of all people, doing is defending the British. Because as a British Nigerian, in fact, you know what? Talk to me. As a British Nigerian, ask me what the British were doing in Nigeria from the years 1914 to 1960. Go on, ask me. I'll wait. In the UK, we get wet for an underdog. That is a terrible turn of phrase. I'm not going to use that. In the UK, we love and root for an underdog. It is somewhat etched subconsciously into the British psyche. And the reason why British people loved Robbie so much is because they could see a little bit of themselves in him. He was this flawed working class hero, as I said, who had self-deprecating humor, and his personality was this weird, intoxicating cocktail of both ego and insecurity at the exact same time. And in Britain, of all places, this dichotomy lands beautifully. We in Britain love someone that can kind of take the piss out of themselves, even if they are insanely talented. Brits thrive on irony, and we find charm in chaos and are somewhat suspicious of people who are trying too hard to be liked or people who are too confident. Honestly, it's weird. It's a thing from the British culture that I just will never grasp and I will never accept. But hey, that's fine. However, in America, as a nation and as a people, they're a little more literal. A personality like Robbie's is kind of hard for them to read because they just don't understand it. Are you arrogant? Are you being witty? Are you being personable? Who are you trying to be? We don't get it. You're just weird. His exaggerated bravado was a little confusing to the American audience, and they kind of found it a little disingenuous as well. There is a reason why Brits like Adele and Ed Sheeran are able to have success in the US, and that's because they are very easy to digest. It's very palatable, and it's very to the point. Ed is this scruffy, wholesome, guitar-playing ginger lad. And Adele is this heartbreak ballad queen who has an angelic voice, but still has an element of London banter about her. So you know what you're going to get when you tap into their interview and you listen to their music. Their brands are very clear, their stories are incredibly consistent, and their music is emotionally direct. Now compare that to a Robbie Williams or to an Oasis or to Arctic Monkeys. To put it very plainly, they're just very British, and their music and their art and their personalities are deeply rooted in British sensibilities. Another big cultural divide between Britain and America is humour. And I say this all the time, and I will live on this hill because I'm not dying on any hill. What the heck? I will live on this hill. British people are funnier than Americans. Fight me. Fight me. British people are funnier than Americans. You know, we Brits, we use humour as an armour. We use it to disarm, to distance ourselves from our own success. And I like it, but I don't like it. I find it annoying. And I find it annoying because, look, I'm not saying I want people to be arrogant and to be full of themselves and to be egotistical, but Brits will do this thing where they expect you to perform this fake humility and this fake reverence because it comes across as more endearing. And by dimming your light in front of others, we like you more. It's such... British people are weird. I'm telling you, Brits are not normal, but whatever. Americans, on the other hand, they have embraced fame and celebrity as a concept since the beginning, since the inception of their nation, and they don't mind if pop stars take themselves seriously. In fact, they actually prefer that they do that. It's why I believe you could never get a Beyonce type individual here in the UK, because the British tabloids and the British press will find beautifully subtle ways to tell Beyonce that she thinks too highly of herself and that she needs knocking down a peg or two. Case in point, Meghan Markle. Now, as we've already discussed, Robbie's entire persona is built on this sort of self-pity, self-mockery, and with everything I've just said about how Americans view celebrity, it further added to their confusion as to why this regular guy in their minds was famous. Fame and celebrity as a concept is actually quite a localized currency, and if you don't have the context as to who an individual is, you have no reason to care. And Americans didn't have that context to Robbie Williams. They didn't grow up watching and listening to Take That. So a lot of what Robbie was doing was very much lost on them, and you can't expect them to care if they don't have an understanding to the backstory. You've also got to remember that at the time that Robbie Williams was at the height of his fame in the UK and Europe, American popular culture was at its peak powers. Because if I start listing names of famous people from America in the early 2000s, we'd be here forever. J-Lo, Mary J. Blige, Beyonce, Christina Aguilera, Pink, Avril Lavigne, Gwen Stefani, Mariah Carey, Justin Timberlake, Backstreet Boys, Usher, Pharrell Williams. I can go on and on and on and on. And at this point, you have to just ask yourself, do you really think Americans are going to care about some Robbie Williams when those are the names, when those are the celebrities, when those are the stars putting on for America around the world? Of course they don't care about Robbie. To be fair, in the present day, breaking America is no longer the be-all and end-all. It's still important, but it's no longer the be-all and end-all. You know, the internet and social media has democratized the entry points, and you could be from and you can be in any part of the world and connect with new fans by simply having a smartphone and Wi-Fi connection. But America is still the biggest entertainment market in the world, and if you crack America and succeed in America, you will unlock an astronomical, incredibly clear new level of success. Okay, before we wrap this up, let's address the banana in the room. The Monkey Movie. Better Man. So much to say, so little time. Biopics are nothing new, and in the last few years we've had a wave of them, and I think we just need to pause for a minute because they're just making them about everyone and anyone, and they're going to the lengths of doing biopics where they are depicting people as CGI monkeys, and the choice to do that for Robbie Williams specifically, to me, is an interesting one. I guess it was a sort of way to tell the story about Robbie Williams whilst also detaching him from it. But you kind of had to be in on the joke in order to understand the metaphor. And we've already touched on it in this particular episode, but the same reasons as to why Robbie's music didn't land in America are the exact same reasons as to why this CGI Monkey biopic didn't land either. The film is a nostalgia piece. Better Man as a film leans on those British sensibilities. It leans on British nostalgia. It leans on take that 90s lad culture and the Britpop scene. Americans just don't have those reference points, so they don't have a reason to care. You have to remember the size of America as well, because Texas as a state is 3 times the size of France. So if Texas is 3 times the size of France, what the hell is little old United Kingdom in the grand scheme of things? We're tiny. We're minute. You know what? Let me paint it this way. Imagine a biopic about a Danish pop star that you've never heard of, played by a cartoon whose music's never landed or travelled to your country. Even if the film is beautifully made and pieced together really, really well, you're not going to watch it. It's just not going to hit the same. And that is the perfect example as to why Robbie Williams' film didn't work in America. How do I put this nicely? Americans are very full of themselves. They are very self-grandizing. And I mean that in a really nice way. They care about their nation. USA, USA. They're very patriotic. And if something doesn't cater to them as Americans, they're not going to tap in. And that's one of the reasons why Better Man as a film bombed in America. It didn't bomb because it was a bad film. It just didn't work because it wasn't for Americans. It was made with a very specific audience in mind. It was made for the people that grew up listening to Robbie Williams. Actually, no, because in Latin America, they love Robbie Williams. So maybe it's just a North American thing. Maybe it's just that. As a Brit that absolutely loves British music and British culture, and also adores American music and American culture, I get why Robbie Williams just wasn't a thing for Americans. Grand scheme of things, it's not the end of the world. It's really not. And I should have probably said this earlier. In fact, I should have started with this. I am a Robbie Williams fan. What? I'm a Robbie Williams fan. Let me entertain. I don't want to rock DJ. Man, I have to do the gun fingers. What? Cause you're making me feel Robbie Williams used to go crazy in the year 6 disco. What you mean? What do you mean? Robbie Williams, that is my goal icon. Don't ever disrespect Robbie Williams when I'm around. America's a big country. Not everyone's gonna make it. I mean, look at Cheryl Cole. Cheryl Cole was on the US version of the X Factor and they got rid of her after the 2nd day. 2 days of that Geordie accent and they said, nah mate, you gotta go. And they got rid of her. They deported her before. No, I'm not gonna make jokes like that. Sometimes some cultural exports just don't land. And Robbie's blend of humour and heartfelt pop was just a little too British. It was a little too British and too confusing for an audience that is raised and has grown up on polished stardom. And you know what? That's okay. That's fine. Robbie Williams may not have a star in the Hollywood Walk of Fame, but he has got something that might arguably be a little bit better. He has a permanent place in the glorious, chaotic, self-deprecating, monkey-haunted heart of British popular culture. If you enjoyed this video, I would absolutely love for you to like it. I'd love for you to subscribe and let me know your thoughts in the comment section too. And while we are here, you can also watch and listen to episodes of Small Talk on Spotify. The link is in the description, so you can listen and watch wherever you are on the go at any time. Thanks for watching, and I'll have another video for you in exactly a week's time. See ya.